My. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode with me. I'm Dr. Varian Staples, or Rev. Dr. Varian Staples, and I'm drinking my coffee. They say coffee helps people when they're kind of tired and they want to stay awake, or they want to be woke. I'm woke, people. I am definitely woke. You know, it's amazing how things have changed so much. We've taken terms that were meant for positivity. As I was growing up on the streets and I heard the word woke, that just means to be aware, to be down. Oops. To be down, to be woke, mean to be aware. Now, woke is determined to be something negative like DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, think about those two aspects. I think it's nice to be awake. You don't want to walk around sleep about everything. Life just passes you by and you have nothing. Yes, I'm very, very upset today over so many things. From sports, so on and so forth. But I heard a word that says, I never seen the righteous forsaken or his seed going begging for bread. That's true word right there. Or touch not my anointed, or do my prophets no harm. That's word also. My wife and I both have a ministry. Everything I do is to rightly divide the word of truth. It could be in the pulpit or it could be on this platform here, Race and Cultures, Bridging the Divides. Race and Cultures, Bridging the Divides. That's what we are, Race and Cultures. I have a person I've been following for a long time. I would love to meet that sister one day, the Adrian Ross Show. Her show is When Sports and Cultures Connect. And this is when race and cultures bridging the divides or connect. We have to come together in truth. We have to be awoke. DEI, diversity. How can you not understand that this word has to be used? You walk into, no, put it this way, park your car in the parking lot. There's every car in the world is there. Yes, Teslas, you have Chevys, you have Pontiacs, you have crossovers, SUVs, Jeeps, everything else. Even the parking lot is diverse. Should we not allow all those different cars to park there because there's too much diversity in the vehicles? Trees, diversity amongst the trees. You may have palm trees, you may have oak trees, pine trees, all in a cluster. Chop down the ones we don't need. That's kind of what's happening. Get rid of those people that don't fit our level of diversity. Oh, and then the inclusion part. No, we don't want to include y'all. We've gone through that already. No, we dealt with Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal. We don't want to include y'all. We're going to segregate. Then we had the Civil Rights Act, 1964. Then we had the Voting Rights Act. No, we're going to keep a poll tax in. Tell me how many jelly beans in that jar. Oh, I'm just really, as my grandmother would say, the old folks would say when I was growing up, I'm just sick and tired. I'm sick and tired. Touch not my anointed. Do my prophets no harm. This is part 2 of where I started off last time talking about Donald Trump. So this is part 2. And it's hitting us right in the face because we looked at what was happening in Washington, D.C. on the heels of what had taken place in Los Angeles with the troops going in. You know, they have this 30-day allowance where they can go in and do things if there's an emergency. I tell you what, I still like to see what emergency exists in LA and what emergency exists in DC to really have rationale for sending in our troops to protect us from foreign attacks and those types of things. Why do we have our military, the National Guard, so on and so forth, in our cities? That provokes a lot of fear in a lot of people. I'm sick and tired. Let me drink some more coffee so I can be more woke. It feels good to be woke. Yes, I'm awake. So many people have chosen to take a nap. You know, I was watching the playoffs or something, and Stephen Curry was making shots and they were winning the game, and he did this thing, night, night, to symbolize time to go to sleep. I don't have to pay attention to the game no more. I said no more. That's right. I could say anymore. It could be more appropriate here. In other words, go to sleep. Don't pay attention to it any longer. Don't pay attention to what's happening to people that are being taken from families, little children being put in handcuffs. Don't pay attention to Black people that are unarmed getting killed. Don't pay attention to women of all races and cultures being raped and the rapists getting let go. Don't pay attention to people who has a livelihood in the store and the store gets robbed and people say that's just the way it is. Don't pay attention to children not having food given to them at school anymore because funds have been taken away. I just saw a news flash, 2 news flashes today. 2 news flashes came up. If I get fined $20, I got to pay my fine. But if I get fined $537 million, convicted off of 34 felony counts, and all of a sudden the court says, Supreme Court says, whoop, you don't have to pay that. That's your fine. That's what happened today with Donald J. Trump. That fine that was levied against him from all the fraud that was created, but he's in the White House. 34 felony counts. You know, don't pay attention. Stay asleep to the fact that 1,500 convicted felons for an insurrection that gets let out of prison for killing people, officers, attacking other senators and the congressmen that are, instead of staying awake to that fact, guess what they did? They decided to go to sleep too. And they did a night. It just didn't happen on January 6th. I talked about that last week. So where are we at today? Good question. I'm glad you asked. We're at Racing Cultures Bridging the Divides. And hopefully we can talk about some things today. But it all starts with family. I talk a lot about my family. You know, Donald Trump has a family. Yes, he does. One of the people in his family has spoken out for a long time regarding her uncle, and that's Mary Trump. So I want to share with you, I'm going to just read the back cover. I'm not going to read the whole book. So this is her book. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if it's backwards to you. Mary Trump, Too Much, Never Enough. How my family created the most dangerous man, the world's most dangerous man. The world's most dangerous man. coming from his niece's mouth. I'm going to read to you the back cover of this. Just embrace this. Just embrace this. I'm going to give you full view. On the back cover, Mary Trump, she's a doctor in psychology. I can relate to that because I hold a very same degree with her. But that doesn't mean we know everything. But we do know one thing about that particular degree. What psychology is based upon is assessing behavior and understand mental functioning. She knows the behavior of her uncle. She knows the cognitive processes of her uncle. And just so happened, he's the president of the United States. So the back cover statement from her book says, and too much and never enough, how my family created the world's most dangerous man, describes her incisive firsthand account of the dysfunctional Trump family dynamics and her licensed clinical psychologist's insight into how her uncle's upbringing, who raised y'all? Don't forget where you're raised in. Her uncle's upbringing shaped the man who has become again president of the United States of these Americas. The statement highlights her unique perspective as an insider. How much more insider can you be, Miss Niece Mary Trump? Detailing the family's patterns of emotional abuse, the complex relationship between Fred Trump, that would be her grandfather, and his sons. And not to get into the book, you need to get the book and read it. And her ability to reveal the truth about the fascinating, unnerving saga that she calls the Klan. That's Mary Trump. I tell you, it's very fascinating. It's fascinating how we have this going on in our society. And she's talking about her uncle. Her uncle. Some of you may not be aware, but you heard this talked about for a long period of time. Something that was created by a group called the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025. Now, we must understand that Project 2025 is 900 plus pages that outlines what we're living in right now, how to develop this authoritarian fascist institution or administration that we are living in right now. Project 2025. A segue off of that is called Agenda 47, representing him being the 47th president. What he wanted to have happen that coincides with Project 2025. So that's I want to look at just some quick snippets of this Project 2025 here. And just, I want you to examine it yourself, what some of the things say. He's right there putting it together. They try to purport that everything is done from a Christian perspective. Now, I'm an ordained pastor. I studied all 66 books. The things that are going on right now does not fit into the Jesus that I know and his teachings that are going on right now in the name of Jesus the Christ, the Anointed One. And this is all infused in Project 2025. So this is something that they put in here. End of no-fault divorce. Complete ban on abortion without exceptions. Ban contraceptive, even if, there's a situation in the mother's life or the baby's life, if it's not a viable fetus, they choose to go ahead and let the mother die under Project 2025. Ban any kind of contraceptive, additional tax breaks for corporations. In other words, the billionaires getting tax breaks, higher taxes for the working class. That'd definitely be me and most of all of us. Elimination of unions and worker protections. In other words, you're going to do everything that the one person tells you to do in the White House. No more unions. Raise the retirement age. In other words, give us more money, um, so you won't get any yourself. Cut back on the Social Security. I have no idea how they can try to tell people that we're going to take advantage of the money that you paid all your life into. You have no say so for, but they're not telling you that what's happened over the years. People, they have borrowed from that Social Security fund and never paid back into it. But that's another episode. Cut Medicare, end the Affordable Care Act that some people want to call Obama Act. Anyway, raise prescription drug prices when you had a previous president that got a lot of things lowered. I guess they got insulin prescription down to $30 and that type of thing. Eliminate the Department of Education. We have already seen that coming from an educational position before. That really hurts me because I had former colleagues and teachers telling me that those students that they served aren't going to get those services anymore. Use public taxpayer money for private religious schools. You know what that means. Trying to sell people on an okie doke that this is all under God's will. Teach Christian religion, this kind of dovetails into that. Teach Christian religious beliefs in public schools. Heck with separation of church and state, I guess. What about other people's religion? What about other people that have other faiths that they worship in? Should we discriminate against them? In free and discounted school lunch programs, statistics have told us, and history has told us, a child learns better on a full stomach. Going to school, we had things, latchkey kids, kids that had to stay after school and they got meals because they didn't have anything at home. Or did they have anything before they got to school? That's a SNAP program. This was one in civil rights and DEI protection in the government. I think I better drink another cup of my woke stuff coffee. People have fought and died in this country for civil rights. We the people, other people, for the people, and by the people. To treat people humanely, give people an opportunity that were denied those opportunities, and getting protection by the government to help them when things are being done that are not right. Ban African American. No, I never used to African American, but I just, for all political purposes here, ban African American and gender studies at all levels of education. Don't talk about those Black folks and what they did and what happened to them. And we know that some people are confused about their gender, and we don't want to try to help understand that so we can live life better and respect people no matter what their choices have been. But we're going to ban all that. Ban books and curriculum about slavery. We don't want to tell the truth no more. Someone once said that, I heard someone say that slavery gave people job benefits, like it was on the job training process. Tell Emmett Till's mother that. Tell the people in Rosewood that. Tell my people that from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and 80s, 90s, even today, that we need to not understand what happened then so we can do better now. Ending climate protections. I think Al Gore tried to tell us years ago there was a problem. And increase Arctic drilling. Deregulate big business and the oil industry. In other words, the money's going to the billionaires still. Promote and expedite capital punishment. We're going to kill you no matter what. I know I wanted to kill those Central Park Five. Whoops, but they were exonerated. In marriage equality. In other words, woman, do as I say. You're not equal. Obey me. Condemn single mothers while promoting only traditional families. That's true. You heard the vice president talk about this. It goes back to that principle: barefoot and pregnant. Keep your mouth shut. Defund the FBI and Homeland Security. I'm just saying, use the military to break up domestic protests. Freedom of speech, no more. I said it again, no more, not again. Mass deportation of immigrants and incarceration in camps. This is part of Project 2025, and this is just part of the 900 plus pages. You need to read it, folks. End birthright citizenship. If you're born here, I was always told you're a citizen. And then, we went through all this birther stuff with President Obama, not realizing that Hawaii happens to be one of the states of the United States. Ban Muslims from entering the country. All Muslims, all black people, all trans, all these people, that people, they're no good. Criminals and thugs. That's what we've been told. Eliminate federal agencies like FDA, EPA, NOAA, and more. And finally, continue to pack the Supreme Court and lower courts with right-wing judges. I just read to you right off the bat what has happened with this Supreme Court situation today. $537 million. Some people say that he's definitely a racist. I'm not going to go into it right now, but I'll get into it next time. But we also know, just come out, that this man wants to get rid of all the stuff in the Smithsonian. Get rid of all the stuff in the Smithsonian. I don't know if I can bring that up. I'll try. Bring that up. Give me a break here. I'll see if I can find out. I'll try to give me a break here. I try to find it. Okay. Just give me a minute. I don't have it here right now, but next time we'll talk about that. But just today, and I'll show it next time when we get together, is not only are we saying that we want to do all these things in Project 2025, but even just yesterday, I saw where he wants to get rid of all the Association of Black History from the Smithsonian and other museums across the country. However, in 2017, he was playing this political game, so to speak, when he went to the Black History Museum and said, "Oh, what a great thing, I love," and everything else. That was all for show, folks. All for show. So what does this man do? Why does he have such a racist agenda? Let's look back here and look at some of this racist things that he's done in the years. Okay. I'm going to kind of go out of this and let you guys see this. Let's look at this here some more. Okay, here we go. So, the long history of Donald Trump from the 1970s to now. I give him credit. He was a good looking dude back then. Um, now, I'll read this to us. Donald Trump is currently selecting, this was right before upcoming election with potential candidates consisting of Republican Senator Tim Scott, Doug Burgum, J.D. Vance, blah, blah, blah. Additionally, Ben Carson is also on the list, but that was just that's the okey doke, people. I got this black guy here. That's the okey doke. Ben Carson wasn't being considered for nothing. So last month, Donald Trump became the first former president to be convicted of felony crimes and is currently awaiting sentencing with everything that's going on with Trump. Here's a look at how he's gone from bad to worse over the years. Okay. Refusing to rent to black people. That's the first thing we see. In 1973, the U.S. Department of Justice, when they were truly U.S. Department of Justice, sued the Trump Management Corporation for failing to follow the Fair Housing Act. There was evidence discovered by federal officials that showed he refused to rent apartments to black people. Ultimately, he signed an agreement that stipulated he would not discriminate to renters of color without admitting to his history of discriminatory behavior. I don't know if you remember she was the bookkeeper. And so when people came in to fill out applications, she was to take the application and she was told to write a C in the corner that meant colored. And then when he saw that, he knew that was going to file 13 garbage can. Then so that's the one area that we know goes all the way back to 1973, where he lost that case. Then I mentioned before about the Central Park Five. He took out a $1,500 big ad against this in 1989, the Central Park Five, consisting of 4 black teens and 1 Latino teen. Okay. 4 black teens and 1 Latino teen. Think about that. We're dealing with the Latino population right now being deported. Even back then, there was something in his racial agenda. Were accused of attacking and raping a white woman in New York City. Trump took out ads in newspapers that read, "Bring back the death penalty. Bring back our police." The teenagers later had their convictions overturned because of DNA evidence, almost like DEI, because they was dealing with the diversity, equity, inclusion of these people. You get that little DNA, DNI. But Trump never apologized for his heinous actions. Of course, he does no wrong. Why apologize when you feel you do wrong? Touch not my anointed, do my prophets no harm. It's ironic. One of the guys, I think on the far right, he is actually he's in politics now himself. In the early 1990s, Trump was accused of being racist toward black people by the former president of Trump Plaza and Casino John O'Donnell. Okay, in addition, the casino paid a $200,000 fine in 1992 after transferring black people and non-black women dealers off tables at the request of a patron. Transferring. My goodness, $200,000 fine. More racist newspaper ads. In 2000, Trump yet again ran a series of newspaper ads where St. Regis Mohawk tribe considered opening a casino that would be in direct competition with his. The ad stated that the tribe had a, quote, record of criminal activity that was well known, says a convicted felon. He also said their dark skin was proof that their ancestry was fake. He praises himself on being the big deal and being on The Apprentice, right? But he also went even further there on that show. I'm not making this stuff up, folks. This is the man that is making decisions for your lives right now, who holds the codes to our atomic bombs. Trump's reality show, The Apprentice, was a huge hit. Bigger than bigger and huger. This is my little comedian thing there. The Apprentice was a huge hit in the 2000s, but he wanted to garner controversy. In 2005, he publicly shared his thoughts on having the show be Black people versus white people. Not making this up. Trump stated that he wanted to create a team of successful Black folks versus a team of successful white folks. Whether people like that idea or not, it is somewhat reflective of our very vicious world. My goodness. I alluded to the thing about birtherism before. So Obama birtherism conspiracy theory. Barack Obama becoming this country's first Black president infuriated Trump. Let me put a qualifier again. I mentioned this many times before, but that's why I don't use the term African American, because it's a misnomer. It's misleading. It's describing that all people here, North American Blacks, came out of Africa when a lot of slaves came out of the West Indies, so on and so forth. And, we have Haiti in there and all that stuff. So North American Blacks might have 20% of that blood in their system or less. But President Obama was truly African American. His father was from Kenya, from Africa, and his mother was from the land of Dorothy and Toto out of Kansas. But let me continue here. Barack Obama becoming this country's first Black president infuriated Trump as he pushed the lie that Obama was not born in the United States. Obama ultimately shared his birth certificate and called out Trump as a, quote, carnival barker. Trump recanted his conspiracy theory in 2016. You know why? He was trying to get back in the graces because President Obama won 2 elections because he was one that brought truth to power. Touch not my anointed to do my prophets no harm. And the final area of racism that we can see here, calling Mexican rapists. Let's look here. Let me go back. Okay. Trump began his presidential campaign in 2015 by calling Mexican immigrants rapists. They were bringing crime and bringing drugs to America. Trump uses rhetoric to justify building a wall to keep them out of the United States. Well, this so-called wall that he and Bannon ended up getting millions for, that ended up being like a few feet. I'm exaggerating, but it wasn't a wall that was built. Racist. I'm sharing with you, I can't make this up. Some people don't want to be woke to this. Then we have the whole COVID racism. Okay, let me go here. During his presidency, you can see up that blip, that news, President Trump leads coronavirus task force briefing. So this is what he said. During his presidency, Trump ordered to refer to the coronavirus as Kung Fu and the Chinese virus. His blatant racism helped fuel hate crimes against Asian Americans. And we saw there was tons of violence against people that were Asian or looked Asian Americans, which they reported as a result of the spread of COVID. Meanwhile, Asian Americans have reported hateful incidents targeting them due to the spread of the coronavirus. Can't make this up. Another thing that happened on the whole issue and the murder of George Floyd. And before I get into this, if you remember, there was a kid, Rittenhouse, went to Minneapolis purposely with a gun, age 17, illegally having a firearm, an assault rifle. He goes into the group of people taunting and jumping in like he's a hero or something, going after people. He falls on the ground. He gets scared. Guy wrestles with him. He shoots the guy and kills him. Okay, calling National Guard on BLM protesters. During the 2020 peaceful George Floyd protests, and they were peaceful, then Donald Trump sent thousands of National Guard troops. I just had President Obama still on my mind based upon my connection with President Obama and George Floyd. I had that in my head. During the 2020 peaceful George Floyd protests, then President Donald Trump sent thousands of National Guard troops to D.C., to Minneapolis. He also deployed numerous unidentified federal officers, most from the Department of Homeland Security, to protesters in Portland, Oregon, which led to avoidable and unnecessary injuries. So they were in D.C. He sent some to Minneapolis and then to Portland, Oregon, created havoc, people being hurt. Then we have another racist trope here, Kamala Harris's birtherism claims. Similar to his Obama birtherism lies, Trump falsely suggested before the 2020 election that Vice President Kamala Harris, the first Black woman and Asian to hold the position, did not meet the requirements to be President Joe Biden's running mate. He had it going on, folks, with his attitude. And then finally, again, January 6th riot. January 6th, following Trump's hosting a rally, says at the Ellipse, I'll go down there with you. He didn't go. Hosting a rally with his most loyal supporters. They violently stormed the Capitol. We saw that last week in an attempt to hold, maybe this week, hold on to presidential power. The mob broke through police barricades, and within 36 hours of attack, 5 people died. He didn't call the National Guard there. He didn't call anyone to help. I think it was like 5 hours later, maybe. Then we have here his Hitler rhetoric. As he set his sights on, that he did, getting back to the Oval Office once again, he repeatedly used Hitler's rhetoric when stating that immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Hitler once said that Jewish blood were poisoning Aryan German blood to justify the Holocaust. You know, that's Hitler's concept of the Aryan race. Trump feigned ignorance and said he didn't understand the inhumane reference. It was just like a child. I didn't know that. I didn't mean that. I had no idea. This is one that really gets me, being a brother also. Black people can relate to to Trump criminality. Last year, this man spoke at the Black Conservative, and this gets me. Look at Byron Donalds back there being a step and fetch it, laughing. My goodness. If you're not used to remember the Jack Benny show, Chester on there. And anyway, Byron Donalds. Yes, boss. Last year, Trump spoke at the Black Conservative Federation Gala in Columbia, South Carolina. During his speech, he said Black Americans can relate because of unfair treatment in the criminal justice system. Then he says, I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the Black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually view me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing, Trump shockingly said. Can you believe this? I'm 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 dumbfounded myself. I'm looking at that. That's why Black people can relate to him, because he says most Black people are criminals. Everything that I've just showed you, I'm not making this up. I'm not smart enough to put all that stuff together and create it, just like people, they want to argue about things in the Bible too. No person is that witty enough to understand how God put things together and try to make everything up. I can't make this up. I started off talking about Mary Trump. I want to close out by letting Mary Trump talk to you from an interview that she did. And just sit back and listen to what Mary has to say.
Joining us now, as promised, Mary Trump is President Trump's niece. She warns his reelection might spell the end of American democracy. And she's the author of a best-selling book you have probably heard about if you watch the news, Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. You are in a very particular situation that, frankly, most people probably don't have personal experience with. And so I really appreciate what you're doing and speaking out your understanding of the situation, your truth, and making time for us tonight. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Ari, it's so great to be here. Thank you.
We were just discussing, and the world is dealing with, President Trump's lies. Your view of whether he's always been this way or it's gotten worse, and any insight you have into why your uncle lies so much.
He's always been this way. It's worse simply because of the power he unfortunately wields and the exponentially greater number of people who listen to him. So the problem...
Sorry about that. We'll get back to
You're
it.
doing and speaking out your understanding of the situation, your truth, and making time for us tonight. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Ari, it's so great to be here. Thank you.
We were just discussing, and the world is dealing with, President Trump's lies. Your view of whether he's always been this way or it's gotten worse, and any insight you have into why your uncle lies so much.
He's always been this way. It's worse simply because of the power he unfortunately wields and the exponentially greater number of people who listen to him. So the problem is that nobody is holding him to account. Why does he lie? Because he can. He lies when he doesn't appreciate the value of the truth, or when the truth doesn't benefit him. So lying serves the same purpose for him it always has. Unfortunately, it's having an impact on an increasingly large number of people. So I completely understand why people talk about the problem that Donald is. He is responsible for the death of hundreds, if not thousands of people every day. We cannot forget that. However, he has so much help that we need to start talking much more directly about the horrors that the Republican Party is allowing him to inflict upon the rest of us.
you mentioned accountability. That has been a big theme and concern in this era. When you were around the family, did you ever see anyone call him out on his penchant, as you put it, for lying, just within family dealings?
Never, never. My grandfather treated Donald as somebody who could do no wrong, even though at some point he must have known that Donald was not particularly intelligent, or he didn't have any particular business savvy, because my grandfather supported him with money, power, and connections every step of the way. But the rest of us didn't know that. So Donald was put on a pedestal that he didn't deserve to be on, of course, but it trained him to believe that he was completely above the fray and beyond any reckoning.
Did you ever hear Donald, as you put it, say or do anything that suggested an awareness or an insecurity about that?
No, never. And that's sort of one of the interesting things about him. Deep down, he's a very insecure person. He's very afraid. But
You're sure of that?
I'm sorry?
You're sure of that?
Yes, I'm absolutely sure of that. And that explains in part the extreme degree to which he has to convince himself and other people that he's always right, and he's always great, and he's always the best.
It's really striking, especially given your proximity. As you know, and our viewers know, we've been living through a racial reckoning this summer. The roots of it obviously predate everyone alive right now, including the president. And yet he is the leader at this time, fomenting so much of it. I want to play something we put together. We do this sometimes with our archival footage of the way Donald Trump has discussed these issues of police brutality and how they overlap with race. Take a look.
I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head. You can take the hand away, okay?
Why are African Americans still dying at the hands of law enforcement in this country?
And so are white people. So are white people.
Are you going to condemn the actions of vigilantes like Kyle Rittenhouse?
We're looking at all of it. That was an interesting situation. He was trying to get away from them, I guess, it looks like, and he fell, and then they very violently attacked him.
From your family.
My goodness, I have to jump into this. You saw, as they were giving the examples of his racist actions, take their head and just let it be, don't try to protect their head. White people get killed, those type of things. Totally ignoring, because his reference that what he's really doing is saying, so what if the black folks or the Hispanic folks or the Asian folks are going through this? So what? He doesn't have any compassion for them at all. Let's see what else Mary said.
Why does he view the world this way?
It suits his purposes. First of all, he just is fundamentally a racist. He thinks he's better than the other. He grew up in a racist family with a.
You hear that? Fundamentally a racist. That means from the beginning. When you study fundamentals from kindergarten on, that means it is inbred in you all the way from your beginning. And she just is alluding to how he grew up in a racist family. She, of course, fought against that and read her book. So let's continue. Yes, this is his niece. She's blood. She knows what her uncle has done, what he's like. Don't take my word for it. I can't make this stuff up.
Racist father. But beyond that, Donald thrives in chaos and division, And he will, because he is so weak and incompetent, pick the lowest common denominator. And in this country, especially with somebody who has the access to power that he has, that means creating strife between Black Americans and white Americans, and making his followers feel that they're superior because, like him, they don't have a lot going for them, I'm sorry to say. I don't understand, honestly, why this is something that continues to surprise people. Donald has been showing his stripes since the early 70s. What he did in the 80s with the Central Park Five was so vile that he should never have been allowed in polite society after that. So we are,
And let me
again,
press you, Mary.
benefits.
I want to press you because, and again, it's so difficult to talk about one's own family, but you are, in your own words, saying that you viewed part of that family environment as racist. Does that mean then that you view him as sort of in the center of that average, if you will? Or do you feel that the way he was and grew to be was more racist, more hateful, more bigoted than perhaps just the environment he was in?
I think that I don't think my family was they weren't virulently racist. And I don't know if Donald would be if it weren't, in his view, expedient to getting what he wants, which is to sow division, because he thinks it plays to his base. He thinks it's going to keep him in power. And also it makes him feel like a tough guy. But the things he says and the things he continues to get away with are, not surprising, but appalling. And not one elected Republican speaks out. And it's, again, why we are where we are. If
That tells us a lot. Now, you heard, it's very ironic. They were talking about the summer that happened with George Floyd and how things are with people. Ironically, it's still, we went into the summer and it's almost history had repeated itself because we were going through the same thing this summer, going to the fall, that existed back then with this racial attacks on, we see it more that's happening with the Hispanic population, still happening with the Black population. And what Mary just said, no one in the party is holding him accountable for anything.
They're not going to hold him accountable. How can anybody else, right? So in my view right now, the entire party is the problem. And he's just being allowed to sow division. I think it's a smokescreen, for whatever's going on. I heard Jason Johnson say that Donald's trying to steal the election, and I agree with that. But I would say even more pointedly, he's already cheating. He's cheating right now by, dismantling sorting machines at the post office and calling into question the legitimacy of an election in which not one vote has yet been cast. And telling people that voting by mail is suspect somehow in the middle of a pandemic in which he is responsible for the death of over 185,000 people. I mean, it's quite honestly, it's a little hard to take at this point. And as we saw at the beginning of your show, it's more every day. I mean, the things you talked about could have happened in a year, and they happened in a matter of 2 days.
Yeah. I think you're making so many important points, including about the way these things happen and the collective responsibility of other individuals and institutions. Hey, I'm Ari Melvin.
My goodness. I can go on and on about this. I have another cup of coffee here, drinking my coffee so I stay awake and be woke. I say to everybody out there, even if you don't drink coffee, you should always be awake. Be awake to things that are happening to you in your own family, in your own neighborhood, in your own cities, anywhere. Stay awake to things. Be aware. Another way to look at it, your children. be awake about what's happened to your children and their education. Right now, we know that our educational system is under attack. Funds are being taken away, those type of things. I want you all to stay mindful of the things that are happening to all of our children out there. And I'm just here. There's a song I like. I'm just a nobody here to tell everybody about someone who can save everybody. But first of all, you have to know how to save yourself. Like and subscribe to this video. There'll be more coming. We are a nonprofit organization. Up at the top corner there, where left to right, you see there's a QR code. We take donations to help people out. You can also go to our website, Race and Cultures, bridgingthedivides.com, and get to learn more about us. We'd be glad to respond to you. If you send us a message, we'll get back to you. Again, I'm Dr. Barian Staples from Race and Cultures, Bridging the Divides. My co-host is not with me again. One day she'll be back. She's out doing her thing in a good way, helping others. She helps a lot of people. And I hope that this is helpful to all those that are listening. I know this was a longer video. I know a preacher once told me about preaching, and a person would preach a long, long sermon, maybe 4 hours or something. He says, it doesn't matter how long as it's good, how long as it goes, as long as you got something good to say. I hope that you learned something. I hope this was something that you can digest. If you start watching the video and you want to take a break and come back to it, you know this is part 2, but you can make your own part 3 out of it. Thank you very much for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you again in our next episode, which will be real soon. You all have a blessed evening. Love your children, love your wife, love your husband. Most of all, love who you are. God bless.